So listen, I'm so excited to sit down and have this conversation with you. You are very busy, but so to make time to be here in this beautiful environment is just an honor and a blessing. So thanks so much for being with me today.
Tim,
Yeah.
thanks for making time to come out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm a big fan of the channel.
Thank you. So, I mean, we're here, as your shirt says, in Pokuase Heights. We're going to talk more about where we are, but I think there are some people who may have never met you, even though you've been on most of the content creators in Ghana's channel. But for folks who've never met you, just maybe a brief intro of who you are and what you're currently doing here in Ghana besides, Pokuase Heights.
Sure. So, Tim, my name is Kofi Anku. I've been involved in real estate in Ghana for the last 25 years.
Oh.
So my father, who's a retired cancer specialist, started buying land in Ghana in the mid-90s.
Wow.
And my siblings and I thought that he had lost the plot because he was buying hundreds of acres in and around the city at a time when it really wasn't in vogue. And we didn't really see the vision. Now, 25 years on, it's crystal clear.
Wow.
So, Dad, thank you for your vision.
Yeah. Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Simply because I think actually we are in a time now where it's the same thing happening.
Absolutely.
I think back to growing up, and I remember asking my mother this question after I came to Africa for the first time, particularly Ghana. And my imagination opened to what I could be by being here. And I asked my mother, I remember saying, how is it that, did you ever explore like who you are, your identity, blah, 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 blah? Because I grew up in America, I'm an African-American.
Yeah.
One of the things she said was very important to me. She said, I didn't have time. I was focused on survival. And it really made me reflect on, because of the histories that were created and the sacrifices that have been made, I'm now in a position, almost kind of like your father, to see ahead of like what can be for my children. So all of that to say that I think that thank you again. Thank you, Dad, for that vision for your children. And now we talk about this vision that we're in, right? Let's talk more about that vision. You've been in real estate for 25 years. Why? Why in Ghana?
Well, I think it's quite clear that Africa owns the future.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say that, what I mean is literally this is the place where the people will be. You literally have more children in Nigeria than the entire EU. So it's going to be a very different world in 40 years.
So you're saying that it's important for us to recognize basically not just what we feel, but the way the world is moving.
Absolutely.
And be aware of the opportunities that those movements have for us.
Yeah, the only thing that you can count on is change.
Yeah.
And if you kind of pull back the camera and you look at the entirety of the globe, one of the reasons why we're in this inflationary environment is because you've got Chinese and Eastern European workers that entered the workforce, with 300, 400 million people who are now cycling out, right? So China is not the destination for cheap labor at the moment, right? So who are the workers going to be? And if you've got Europe and demographic decline, where they're just finding it too expensive to have children, right? This is where the young people are.
Yeah.
I think the average age in Italy is like 47.
Wow.
Average age in Japan is 49. What's the average age in West Africa? It's got to be like 19.
Yeah. And I think it's like what 2030, most of the world's youth, the world's youth, not Africa's youth.
Sure.
The world's youth will be here.
Absolutely. So there's more demand here.
So I'm curious as to this endeavors in real estate. And what I see it as an opportunity as you plan your role as a connector, right, of the diaspora. But this is how you do it, right, in this particular way. I'm curious as to what got you to start kind of seeing this vision. Of course, your father, right? But start seeing this vision.
And mom. My mother's also a very keen, shrewd real estate investor. And I think there's a lot that we just picked up almost by osmosis as kids in terms of what type of investments to make, Even in terms of design, I still bring my mother in.
Really?
She looks at every blueprint I look at.
Wow.
Any floor plan, I bring it to mom. And I remember when I brought her here and we walked through the model unit for the first time. And she usually has some really constructive feedback. And she was just really, really happy with how everything turned out.
Really?
It was actually one of my proudest moments.
Wow.
That we got an A on that assignment. So
listen, mom said, it's mom approved. Forget Ghana approved, it's mom approved.
That's right.
And
right.
that's all we need. So I'm curious, we talked a little bit off camera about you studying African-American studies.
That's right.
And then you really understanding and seeing this need to bridge the gap within the diaspora. Tell me about what are some of the things that you're seeing, like in terms of like where we are contemporary times, that show you that this is the time now, aside from the youth demographic statistic, but this is the time now to really bridge this gap in the diaspora?
So that's a great question. I think there is an impulse to just say, okay, listen, I'm fed up with the racism in America and I'm looking for an alternative. And I respect and understand. I think that's fine. But when I look at regions of the world that have had exponential growth, they've done that with engagement with the West. Right? So you've got things like the continental African trade, which is good. It's good to have free trade and kind of borderless trade in between countries. But Asia got rich trading with North America. Eastern Europe got rich trading with Western Europe. The fact that we have 50 million people of African descent in the richest country in the world, there's an opportunity for us to earn hard currency in unfathomable ways. Like China doesn't have that. And now they're literally rivaling the US in terms of the size of their economy. So if we activate, a 50 million strong sleeper cell in the US, economic sleeper cell in the US, and connect that with a whole continent with resources and 1.3 billion people. Right? And we're also talking about the fact that you've got all of these black countries that are 90 miles off the coast of Florida, right, in the Caribbean. Right? How do you put all of those pieces on the chessboard in play so that you've got the true economic liberation of black people? Right? That's what moves me. That's the driver. And that's, I think, the opportunity that a lot of people aren't seeing.
Why do you think so many people don't see it that way?
Well, for me, I also studied Korean when I was at Columbia, right? So, and I lived in Korea. And so Korea had a similar GDP to Ghana in the 50s. And if you walk into Seoul, it's a very different city than Accra, right? But if you don't know that history and you haven't spoken to Koreans in their own language to understand the journey that they've been on, it's hard to know. Right? So it's like one of those things where you've got people who are looking at a problem from different angles, but they're not seeing 360. So I've lived in London, I've lived in Korea, I've lived in the US, I've lived in Ghana, right? So that informs my perspective.
Yeah, I get you. No, and I think that makes sense. One of the things I hear the most, particularly as I'm coming from an American context, but Black American context, and I see people come to Ghana, is one of the things I've seen is if it's not an entrepreneur, and let's just say, and this is no downplay to anybody who's an entrepreneur versus an employee, but if somebody's coming from an employee mindset and haven't been used to thinking as an entrepreneur, what I've seen by far and by large is they come to a place like Ghana and they see problems as problems, period. That's where it ends. Up against maybe the levels of comfort and whatever I'm used to. But when I talk to entrepreneurs, like I have a few in my mind right now, when they came to Ghana, particularly looking at sanitation issues, some of them started businesses around that. They said, why is all the plastics or the polythene on the street?
That's right.
And some of them solved the problem by starting micro businesses around recycling.
That have grown into some big businesses.
Yes.
I know some, Trashy Bags is one. They use those sachets and turn them into handbags and export them to the US and UK. Exactly. There's huge opportunities. I think you're that's spot on. That's what entrepreneurs do.
Yeah.
Right? They look at opportunities through challenges. And I would say that like one of the things that when I'm on panels, sometimes people approach me and say, okay, well, I'd like to be an entrepreneur. What should I be doing? And for me, like that dog just doesn't hunt, right? Like the whole point of an entrepreneur is you see something and you're like, okay, I know how to do that, right? I may not have the money, but I know people who would invest in me to attack that problem, right? I've got skill sets, resources, networks to address this. Right? You can do anything in real estate. You can be a developer, you can be a building, so you can sell building materials, you can be the designer. Like there's a huge value chain. I don't know where you fit in because I don't know what you're good at.
Yeah.
Right. So if you don't see that opportunity, I can't see it for you.
I just had a conversation this morning, and one of the things that the panelists said was enterprise and entrepreneurship is the way to solve Africa's problems. What do you think about that?
Well, I think there's an 800-pound gorilla in the room, right? Which is governance. Right? Like we're doing what we can as entrepreneurs and we're fighting that fight every day. But the government of a country like Ghana has what, a $10 billion budget annually? That has to be deployed in a way that maximally impacts the development of the country. You know, like how much money has Achimota Park? $30 million, right? Like like almost all of that money went to pay for its construction, right? And marketing and staff and whatnot. Like, that's not, but billions, you have got to use that judiciously. And there's got to be a way, right, for the huge amount of talent that's in the middle class and diaspora to hold government accountable. To, you know, I usually steer clear of politics. I've never been angling for a contract. That's just not my thing, right? But if we're talking about transformation, part of the story I think might be sequential. That if we can create beachheads so that we can bring the diaspora in and middle-class Ghanaians who are often, you know, it's not just a question of diaspora, it's also, there are a lot of really talented Ghanaians who are looking for opportunities elsewhere because they don't see how they can fit in, right? So it's like, well, there might be a rock star at a bank and now he can buy a house here as opposed to, you know, moving. So I think, you know, as those numbers build, maybe we can impact the quality of the governance, but I wouldn't discount that.
No, it's something that's a very, as you said, an 800-pound gorilla. That oftentimes doesn't get talked about as much, but it's the truth. Listen, if you're in your own house and just on a micro level, if the leaders of the home are not on one page with the occupants of the home, then you're gonna have chaos. You know, the house divided won't stand. So as we're talking about the realities of like this opportunity for entrepreneurs, for people, right, to come back, I'm just curious, what have been some of the responses of people who've come back who are looking for their kind of piece of Wakanda, because that's what it is right now. What have you seen as some of the responses of people who've moved into some of your residences, like of how they have found that piece at some of the properties that you have?
Sure. So I build properties for myself, right? Like I never build something that I wouldn't myself want to live in. So I've lived at Achimota Park. I'd be happy at Pokuase, like in terms of the room dimensions and the qualities of the material. So unsurprising, people generally enjoy the experience. I mean, there's always things we learn. So Achimota Park, I think even as a resident there, I found the rooms a bit warm because we didn't have the insulation in the ceiling. So when we had the opportunity to build Pokuase Heights, even though it's a fraction of the cost, we made sure to have insulated roofs and ceilings, right? So even here, instead of using a corrugated metal roof, we went for a UPVC roof, which is considerably cooler and it's resin treated, right? And then we also have put in insulation in the ceiling. So we're always improving. But yeah, people, you know, we're also looking at considerations like the communal water. Like what are the pain points? exactly what you're describing.
Yeah.
When you're in Ghana, I've lived in situations where you run out of water and it's on you. You need to find the truck yourself, right? So you're solving all of these municipal issues literally in your home, right? There's no power. So now you've got to run around and find a generator and a guy that can fix the generator. I mean, I didn't know what the hell a generator was when I was living as a kid in Strongsville. If you showed me it, I wouldn't have been able to tell you what it did. I hadn't seen a poly tank before.
I've never seen one until I came to Ghana.
Right. So these are some of the things that we try and address here. It's like, okay, can we build a community water supply for 12 homes? Right. And we had an issue where the borehole was producing water. We had decent yield, but it was coming with a higher iron content. Right. And I spoke to my partner, Stefan. He had his buddy Anton on a plane, came out here and created our own water treatment plant.
Wow.
Where we've got glass media that we've put it through, no chemicals, filtration system, settling tanks. And then we even have a little chamber at the top, this little bit where this crushed limestone that the water passes through to soften the water. Right. So it's like, these are not things, you need a process engineer to design that, but there are people, particularly on this continent, who know how to do this.
Yeah.
Right. So we could have bought a system from Germany for $70,000 and then increase the price of the homes, or get Anton here, the price of a ticket.
Yeah.
Right. To design a system that we could now roll out going forward.
Wow.
So again, you find a problem, you find a group of men and women that know how to address it, and you're building capacity within an organization.
Yeah. And that's what, on a basic level, I think that's what people are looking for, particularly folks that are coming from, we talk about this, like, let's say a place like the US, who, I've seen it happen a lot, who've never been on the continent, or let me say Ghana, let me just stick with Ghana, or been in a context like this where there are some things that, like, for example, when I came to Ghana and I saw things were off, let's say I walk into a house and the doors wouldn't close, windows wouldn't close. Or I'll be in a house and we have the security bars and I'm just like, what happens if all my doors are locked with a key and there's a fire? I mean, I'm not Superman. I can't break through this wall. We'll all die. But then what I was met with is, this is Ghana, so we have to relax small or just accept it. But then there was another part that said, why is it that the quality that we produce here automatically gets reduced because it's here? And so the question is, how much, right, should someone coming, let's say from a place like America, have expectations that when I come to Ghana, it will be like where I'm coming from, or if there should be a level of, let me say, adaptation to the environment? Is there a pull and tug with that? If so, how does that work?
I think you've laid out the problem beautifully. There's no reason why, as Ghanaians, we should accept mediocrity. At the same time, if you're looking at a place like London, or you're looking at a place like the US, 300 years of slavery creates some benefits. Unpaid labor. You got money to pay for streets.
Yeah.
Right? If you're running a colonial operation, and nobody on the subcontinent of India can trade with anybody but you, right? That's a lot of money. To make North London look pretty beautiful. Right. So I think there's no reason why we should be lowering our standards, and there's a lot that we can do with the little that we have. Right. But at the same time, it's a developing country.
So then, so what should we do in terms of really learning how to adapt?
I would say that there are a lot of things that need to be in the equation, right? Because you also have culture, right? Which is a type of technology.
Explain that.
Right? You're talking about bars in the window, but we don't have a culture of mass shootings. We don't have a culture of people getting in violent confrontations with their neighbors. Right. And in
Yeah.
You know, we don't have a culture where there's a gun for every man, woman, and child in the country.
Yeah.
Right. So there are trade-offs.
Got you.
You know, so it's like, yeah, there's going to be some potholes.
Yeah.
But if you have a flat tire, the guy who's stopping is there to help.
I was telling someone that a while ago, where when I went back to the States recently, I was talking to them about the difference of like traffic, right, and incidences. Like when someone, for example, when I'm driving in Ghana and someone shouts at me or curses at me because maybe I've made a wrong turn or something, literally in that moment, it's over. Because there's no concern that the person's going to hit the gas, run me down, get out the car, and shoot me or something.
Sure.
When I'm back in the States, specifically my home state, Texas,
Yep.
and something like that happens, especially with those big trucks sitting on those big old wheels,
Yep.
and I cut somebody off or something like that, maybe by accident, I'm always thinking this could end in a very violent confrontation. So I think about and I move in life differently. And I was explaining to the person, because I think I was complaining about the lights or something one day. But at the end of the day, I was like, oh, but as well, you know, in Ghana, you know, everything is all as well. Because I was trying to express that it's a trade-off. And there are some things that money can't buy, like peace.
Tim, I thought I might be running late for this meeting. So I was driving quickly and changing lanes. And I just saw that there was a guy on a motorbike. Right, so I quickly moved back into my lane, and he drove past it again, right? I'm from Cleveland. So, you know, my thinking is, okay, this guy's going to be irate. He gave me a long salute. You know, and it was so sophisticated because what he was communicating was that, hey, you're in four wheels, all right? You outrank us. Right? If we change lanes and aren't careful, it's a problem for us. It's on a bike.
Yeah.
Right? But he's saying that, hey, if you're the colonel, it comes with responsibility. So sophisticated.
Yeah.
Right? It wasn't just, you know, it was, let me remind you who you need to be when you're operating a vehicle in this shared space.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think, and that's a level of trade-off that I would gladly take any day, versus, as you said, right, a culture of mass shootings. And for me, when I go back, sometimes I don't know if this situation is going to turn into like a hyper-violent, like overnight. And so really preparing ourselves, right, as we're looking at the realities of coming back, there's a trade-off. Now, I really want to talk more so about, like, we talked about the opportunity, but you've created a residential space where opportunity lives, right? Where people can be in a space where they can feel free not to have to worry about some few small potholes and things like that, where they can come back to a place, have rest and dream and imagine. What I would like to do is just check out the place and see what you've built here at Pokuase Heights and just highlight, right, some of that attention to detail that Mom has approved upon.
Excellent. Let's have a look.
All right, so we're here right now at phase 3, and I want to check out what has been kid developed but Mom approved. So if you could, let's have a tour of where we are right now. You could just kind of give us an idea about where we are and show us what folks will be buying.
Sure.
After this video.
Amen.
They're gonna want to buy some.
Excellent. Yeah.
50% off if you. No, I'm just playing. So tell us about the SWAT.
Excellent. So actually, we do as much creation of the materials and buy as many local items as we can for these homes. So where you're standing, we actually produce these concrete tiles ourselves. The walling, the precast walls that we actually produce. So we reduce the amount of cement required to build the wall by making everything on site. Right. So with these kind of precast walls, there's just cement at the base of the pillar.
Got it.
You don't actually have cement throughout. If you're a traditional wall, you have to dig a huge trench and fill it with concrete and start piling the blocks up, right? And then again, with the precast wall, it's about this thick as opposed to this thick. So you're reducing the amount of cement.
Got it.
So a lot of things we've upgraded in this on phase 3. So each phase, we improve the quality of the materials because we have better relationship with suppliers. These doors are an upgrade. We use a locally produced tile. These tiles are made in a factory in Takrady, which is actually where my grandfather is from.
Wow.
So we put that in. We brought the doors in ourselves. So the buyer of this unit actually opted for a granite finish.
Okay.
That's not a standard feature, but we put that in for her.
So buyers have the option if they want to. So talk to us about, I know that there's a few options. There's fully finished and then there's a shell. So for folks who are interested, maybe this is their first time hearing about it. What are some of those buyer options that you have available at this development?
Well, the shell home basically mimics what we find in the market. A lot of buyers buy incrementally in Gaza, right? They build incrementally. So you find folks, and you'll see as you went around, a lot of half-built houses.
Yes.
And it's difficult to wrap your mind around if you're coming from used to that.
Yeah.
Right? But in a place where there's really no construction finance and there's a very, very small mortgage market, and also depreciating currency. If you're sitting on 100,000 CDs, it might be a good idea to start your foundation. You don't have the money to build the whole house.
Yeah.
Right? Because the cost of materials can go up on a monthly basis.
Yes, thank you.
Right? So it's a hedge against inflation. It also secures your land against encroachment. That's another huge issue here, is that you can buy the land, but you find that with time, that there are people who are challenging your claim or actually building on property, and it takes a long time to try and get them off. So as a way to stake your claim, you build incrementally. So with the shell house, what we found is that a lot of folks that were in the diaspora, they might not have all the money to buy the house fully finished. They may not even intend to move back. It could be that they're retiring at the age of 60, but they want to get in on the property ladder at 57.
Get it.
Right?
Okay.
So, you buy the shell house, which looks completely finished from the outside, right? But on the inside, the house is raw. So you can do your own tiling, or you can even contract us to put tiles in 2-3 years when you need them.
Got it.
So it just allows people to manage their cash flow.
I get it. It makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. And I think it's important for you to mention that because, as you said, right, if somebody's watching this from Houston, buying a shell house is like a foreign concept and it doesn't make sense. But again, in just context, it's different options to meet the demand of the market for this context.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So this is one of the 3 bedrooms. I'll show you a unit that actually has all the furniture in it. But we upgraded with the shower units for phase 3. We brought these in. Wow. Full stainless steel fittings, stainless steel tops.
Now, this is a simple thing, but I've told people this before, right? That when I came to Ghana, it was a simple thing, just like doors not closing, hallways that are crooked. You go to a washroom that's this size.
Yeah.
This is the washing, this whole side, and then a toilet in the center of the washroom.
That's right.
And even when you get your tissue as well, where you're like, what design this place?
It's not easy.
Yeah, so to come, and I think that there's a lot of people who have a certain expectation in their mind about coming back to the continent. And again, like they're looking for their little piece of Bukata. And I think that what you provide is you provide people an opportunity to have that. I'm not trying to make it sound too idealistic, but I've been here 4 years and I'm telling you, I'm trying to say you horror stories that I've experienced. I think what you've done, because you understand those worlds and because of that international experience, you know what people are looking for. And again, right, you wouldn't build a place that you wouldn't want to live in. I think that's the difference. The motivation is not try to let me go and chop these people's money, because that's a real reality.
Sure.
But let me create something where I can see myself in. And you see that reflected in the detail. I mean, but mama owned it, so we already knew that.
Excellent. So with this unit, you've also got the master bedroom that's en suite, master bath. And this is how the unit expands. So this is 3 bedrooms. So the two beds, you can actually extend and add a third bedroom. This is what it looks like once you added the third bed.
I like the
wardrobe.
yes. So if you're someone who's married and you don't want to share space with your spouse,
Everybody's got this.
everybody make their own space.
That's right.
You can keep yourself there.
That's right.
Exactly.
Exactly.
So yeah.
So this the wardrobes we started on phase 2 with asphalt, and then we found a really good wardrobe carpentry outfit on Spintex Road that we used for phase 3.
Wow.
And I'm really happy with the finish. We had thought that we might need to bring in some of these items from China, Turkey, but to be able to support a locally based entrepreneur and really begin to build out that ecosystem.
Yeah.
It's helpful.
Wow. Yeah, we can see. I mean, I think I can see the vision as we're walking through it, right? It's not just about creating homes, it's about creating communities. And within that, right, you need different aspects of the community to connect. You need entrepreneurs, you need everything. Mm-hmm. And I can see him creating that. Listen, I might have to buy one of these, man.
You'd love to have it here.
Listen, put me on the list. I'm on the list.
I think we need to do that. We need an enclave for the Tim Swain community that you're building, because you guys are basically doing the same thing, but virtually.
Yeah.
Like I've seen the kind of responses you're getting in your comments section.
Yeah.
Right, and it's hugely powerful.
Yeah, I mean, I think what it shows is the reality that people are tired, man. They're tired of pursuing a dream where when they they're tired of climbing a ladder, mm-hmm. only to realize when they get to the top, the ladder has been leaning against the wrong building.
Yeah.
So one of the things I noticed when I got here was I see that you try to incorporate greenery.
That's right.
Like you have this beautiful kind of backdrop with greenery, but you also have it within the community. Mm-hmm. Why was it important to have that kind of touch here?
I think it just makes it more livable. You just don't want to be in a concrete jungle in your own home. The more greenery, and we're in the tropics.
Yeah.
You can't grow climbing ficus in Cleveland. So if you're able to grow a cane palm in your front yard, why not? Mm. I think it adds a huge amount of value.
And so with phase 1, 2, and 3, how many units total are we talking about?
So it's 48 units.
Okay.
But we're going on to do another 50 in phase 4.
Wow.
So
you go all the way to what, like phase 12? No, phase 10? No,
why not? Why not? Why not? Yeah. So far as there's demand, we will produce homes.
So where we are right now is, so we're in phase 1 right now. Mm-hmm. Out of all of the units that you have between 1, 2, and 3, how many do we have left, percentage-wise?
Okay, so phase 1 is completely sold out.
Okay.
Phase 2, I've got 2 units left in phase 2.
All right.
And then in phase 3, we have 10 units.
So 2-bedroom, 3-bedrooms, what are we talking, and then price points?
So with the price points, it's $55,000 USD for a fully finished 2-bed.
Okay.
If you opt for the shell home, it's $42,000.
All right.
And I've got payment plans that extend as long as 2 years.
So we've got 2-year payment plans. So we got options for people.
Yep.
Here's a question I have. Let's say there's somebody watching this right now. Let's say they have access to, I don't know, maybe $55,000 to $75,000 or $80,000. They're thinking about, they've seen all these real estate videos.
Sure.
They want to come to Ghana and invest in something. Maybe not development, but they want to invest. Mm-hmm. Maybe 12 months, they want to start seeing a return on their investment. Uh-huh. What would you advise that person to do? Should they build something? Should they go for a turnkey property? How would you advise that individual? Let's say that most of my audience is from the U.S. Let's say they're a U.S. person.
Sure. Well, I think there are unique opportunities and challenges. If you're interested in spending $55,000, I think obviously I'd recommend buying something here. Right? The constraint is you won't have the opportunity to express yourself in terms of being able to decide where the rooms are, and you're limited to the options that we have here. I think one of the lovely things about being in Ghana, particularly in the real estate space, is it allows for people to be a bit adventurous. So it depends on your appetite. One of the things that we found with our buyers here, more than 50% of my buyers are women.
Wow.
And I think one of the drivers there is they don't necessarily want the hassle of trying to supervise work crews. They like a turnkey solution.
Yeah.
So it really depends on a case-by-case basis what you're looking for and what you're trying to get out of that investment. In a location like Pokuase Heights, this is not a location where you're going to find a great rental yield immediately. I think we're probably about 2 to 3 years before the rental market really picks up here. So what you're getting is appreciation. You're buying a house for $55,000 that will be valued at $100,000 sooner than later.
That's a lot of appreciation.
I've seen it. I mean, this is,
yeah. I mean, for this, the thing is, I think it goes back to the first part of our conversation, where you said that your father, you guys thought he was crazy, but he was doing things ahead of time because he saw the vision. And I think because of that, right, you have a lot of visionaries like yourself who are doing the same thing. And I think one of the challenges that we have experienced is sometimes here on the continent, the move will pass us. And then we'll say, let's now catch up. Let's catch up to that now. As opposed to really being visionaries and listening to people like yourself and other people in different sectors who understand the context that we're in. Everything we talked about earlier, right? Looking at the youth demographics, looking at the realities of the skill opportunities, entrepreneurship opportunities, and saying, let's do something here. I mean, when you talk about $55,000, where can you go in the U.S. and buy a house? Well, you can, but
not in a capital city.
Yeah. And in the environment sometimes that you'll buy it in, you probably don't want to live there. You probably want to live there. So I think, honestly, there is an opportunity here. I know there's somebody watching this. This is their first time. Thank you so much for watching for the first time. Maybe they are the Ghanaian that has been abroad. And because they've been watching all of this content on YouTube, on LinkedIn, on IG, they know that they want to come back. They've accomplished the whatever dream, but they have no idea where to start. What would you say to that person?
Well, I think a great place to start is just to have a beachhead where you can start to engage with the country. So if you've got a place, that's where it begins. You need a home so that you can assess opportunities. You can even invite some of your contacts that you've made abroad to experience Ghana and look for how you fit in.
So listen, the message is simple. Just come. Just come. And thank you so much for your time today. I mean, I think that the conversation has been educational. It's been empowering. And I know that there's some folks watching who are really not just inspired, but they've been challenged deeply to do something different, to move them towards accomplishing that African dream. And if this is your first time watching this, listen, I surely appreciate you. If you love this content, make sure you like the video. Make sure you subscribe. Until next time, peace.